There is a certain comfort in the way we usually approach philosophy, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's foundational.
It feels like map making. You're standing before this huge, chaotic terrain of reality.
The world being itself.
And you draw lines, you create coordinates. You say, this is a tree, that's a star, this is a human being. And once you've named it, once you've mapped it,
You feel like you own it.
you own it. It's an intellectual conquest. We build these, I don't know, these fortresses of reason where we can sit inside and look out at everything and just say, I get it, I understand.
It's the search for a synoptic view, the God's eye view, really. The idea that you can see everything from nowhere or from somewhere above it all.
And that's been the project for, what, 2,500 years?
At least from Aristotle, meticulously cataloging the natural world to, Heidegger analyzing the fundamental structures of being itself. The project is ontology.
The study of what is.
The study of reality as a thing to be grasped, to be understood, to be mastered.
But then you run into Emmanuel Levinas. And when you really, really sit with his work, I don't mean the summaries, but the sheer density of his actual prose.
It's a different experience entirely.
It doesn't feel like he's handing you a better map. It feels like he's ripping the map right out of your hands. It's a genuine shock to the system.
It is.
I remember the first time I properly tried to grapple with totality and infinity. I was expecting, a treatise on ethics, something about how to be a good person, maybe a system for making fair decisions.
A new chapter in a familiar book.
Exactly. Instead, I felt like I was being, assaulted. Intellectually, ethically assaulted.
That feeling of vertigo is the correct response. If you don't feel dizzy after reading Levinas, you haven't understood him.
Right.
Because he makes a move that is, frankly, completely audacious. He looks at this entire history of map-making, this grand obsession with ontology and being, and he suggests it's not just an intellectual choice.
He suggests it's a form of violence.
A fundamental violence. And he says that ethics is not some branch of philosophy you get to after you've figured out what reality is. Ethics is first philosophy.
It comes before everything.
It precedes understanding.
Yeah.
It precedes logic. In a very real sense, it precedes the eye.
Let's stay with that idea for a second, first philosophy, because it sounds so counterintuitive. My whole training tells me I need to know what something is before I know how to act towards it.
Of course.
If I see a shape in the fog, I need to know if it's a bear or a bush before I decide whether to run away or just, admire the scenery. Knowledge first, action second. Levinas is flipping that completely on its head.
He is. And to understand the why, we have to look at what really happens when we prioritize knowing. Levinas uses a very visceral metaphor for knowledge.
Digestion.
Digestion. Assimilation. When I understand something, I strip it of its essential strangeness. I break it down into concepts I already have in my head. If I meet you, for instance, and I immediately think, yes, a certain type of academic, late 40s, specific intellectual background.
Well, you're digesting me.
I'm digesting you. I'm turning you into a nutrient for my own mind. I'm making you part of me. Or, as he would put it, part of the same.
So knowledge is a form of consumption. It's the imperial ego expanding its territory. I go out into the world, I eat up experiences, I eat up other people by filing them away in my categories, and I come back to myself fatter and happier.
Exactly. And that is his key term, totality. A totality is a closed loop. It's a system where nothing can ever truly surprise me because I've accounted for all the possibilities in advance. I've reduced everything that is other to the same.
And Levinas looks at the history of Western Europe. The triumphs of the Enlightenment, the grand philosophical systems of Kant, of Hegel, and he asks this just devastating question.
If we're so smart, if our rational systems are so total and complete, why did they end in the death camps? Why did they culminate in the Holocaust?
And this is where we have to ground this conversation, because Levinas is not writing in a vacuum. He's not some 18th century philosopher in an ivory tower.
No, he's writing in the shadow, in the ash of the Shoah. He was a prisoner of war.
We can't just gloss over that.
I can't. Stalag 11b. He spent years in a forced labor camp, specifically for Jewish prisoners of war. You have to imagine that scene. The guards were men who were raised in the culture of Goethe, Beethoven, Kant.
The pinnacle of high culture and rational philosophy.
And yet, when those men looked at Levinas or any of his comrades, they didn't see a human being. They saw a number. They saw a category. They saw something to be managed, used up, or eliminated. Their ontology, their map of the world, had a neat little box for him, and that box was labeled subhuman.
So when Levinas attacks totality, he's attacking that entire mindset, the mindset that arrogantly says, I have the power to define what you are.
Yes, But before we get to the escape from that trap, to the ethics, we have to really sit with the horror of the trap itself. Because Levinas paints a picture of existence that is genuinely terrifying.
It really is. I think a lot of people come to philosophy looking for comfort, right? For a sense of being at home in the universe. Heidegger certainly talked that way.
Heidegger talks about dwelling. He uses the metaphor of being a shepherd of being. It's all very pastoral, very rooted, very comfortable. Levinas looks at that vision and he physically recoils.
For him, pure existence, just being, without the ethical dimension. But it's not a home, it's a horror story.
It's what he calls the ill-ya, the there is.
The ill-ya. It's such a difficult concept to get your head around because our minds are built to think about things, a table, a person, a thought. But Levinas asks you to perform this thought experiment. Imagine all those things are gone.
Imagine the end of the world. Not just the destruction of things, but the annihilation of subjects and objects. What's left?
Not nothingness, that's the key. Not a peaceful void.
No, it's the anonymous, impersonal, suffocating rumble of existence itself.
He gives us a way in, though. He's a genius at using these psychological states as philosophical tools. And the best way to get a feel for the ill-ya is insomnia.
Yes. The 3:01 a.m. experience.
I think we've all been there. The house is completely silent. You're exhausted. You want nothing more than to just let go, to slip into the nothingness of sleep. But you can't.
And the silence. Like, it's not empty, is it? It's loud, it's buzzing, it's thick.
Exactly. In insomnia, you're vigilant, but there's nothing to be vigilant for. There's no object you're watching. You're just stuck, pinned to consciousness.
You want to withdraw, but the there is won't let you. It's this anonymous hum. It's not I exist, it's just there is existing happening, and you're trapped in the middle of it.
It's a kind of metaphysical claustrophobia, and this leads directly to his early work, to the idea of nausea. And he's not just talking about an upset stomach.
No, this is from his essay on escape. The nausea is the horrible realization that I am riveted to myself. I am stuck with me.
I cannot get out of my own skin.
We spend our lives talking about finding ourselves or being true to ourselves as if that's the ultimate prize. Levinas asks, are you sure you want that? Because the self is a cage. I am chained to this specific body, these memories, this consciousness. I can't take a vacation from being me.
And that feeling of being completely surfeited with yourself, of choking on your own existence, that is nausea.
And so we try to escape.
Of course. We seek pleasure, we get drunk, we lose ourselves in work, in art, in anything that helps us exit the self for a little while.
But they're all false exits, aren't they? If I get drunk, I might forget myself for a few hours, but then the hangover crashes me right back into my own head. The self always returns, more insistent than before.
This is what he calls the solipsistic trap. The only reality I can ever truly know is my own consciousness, and that consciousness is a prison cell.
So the urgent, desperate question that drives his entire philosophy is, how do we get out? How do we break the totality? How do we escape the self?
And the answer can't be to dig deeper into the self. You can't tunnel your way out of your own prison.
The rescue has to come from the outside. It has to be a break-in, an intrusion.
And this is the pivot, the great reversal in his thought. The intrusion is the other, or more specifically, the face of the other.
And here we have to be so careful.
Yes. This is probably his most famous concept, but I feel it's also the most profoundly misunderstood. When you hear the face, you immediately think of facial features, eyes, nose, mouth, a portrait.
A collection of aesthetic qualities.
But Levinas is absolutely insistent that the face is not a visual object.
Absolutely not. The moment I am cataloging the color of your eyes or the shape of your chin or trying to read your micro-expressions to figure out what you're thinking, I am not encountering the face.
You're just doing ontology again.
I'm inspecting an object. I'm mapping you. Oh, he looks tired today. He has a strong jawline. That is totalization. It's me reducing you to a set of qualities that exist inside my world.
So what is the face, then, if it's not the physical features?
The face is the way the other presents themselves to me that fundamentally shatters my ability to form a concept of them. He uses the word nudity. The face is naked.
Stripped of all the masks we wear.
All of them. Our social roles, our job titles, our uniforms, our reputations. It's the point of absolute vulnerability. The pure exposure of a life.
It's the part of us that is most exposed, the part that can be hurt, the part that can be destroyed.
And that is the central paradox. The face is the most fragile thing in the world. Physically, I have power over it. I can strike it, I can kill the other. But at the exact same moment that I grasp my power to kill,
an absolute resistance arises.
Not a physical resistance. The other might be old or weak or a child. They can't fight back. The resistance is ethical. The face speaks without needing words, and its first and only word is a command.
Thou shalt not kill.
Thou shalt not kill. Or, more accurately, thou shalt not commit murder. It's an appeal and a command in one.
But hold on, let's be critical here. People commit murder all the time. History is a slaughterhouse. If the face issues this incredibly powerful command, why is it ignored so often? Is it supposed to be some kind of magic spell?
It's not a spell. And crucially, it's not a statement of fact. It isn't, you cannot kill me. It's, you shall not. The very fact that we can kill is what gives the command its ethical weight.
So it's not a force field.
No, it's an accusation. The moment I stand before the vulnerable face of the other, what he called the widow, the orphan, the stranger, I realize that my very existence, my freedom, my power, is a potential violence against them. My spontaneous right to be is suddenly put on trial.
This reminds me of his brilliant rereading of Robinson Crusoe. It's such a perfect illustration.
It makes it so clear.
Crusoe is alone on his island. He's the monarch of all he surveys. He owns everything. The coconuts are his, the shelter is his, the view from the hill is his. He is the king of his own solipsistic castle.
A perfect totality of one. The entire world is just an extension of Crusoe's needs and desires. It's his pantry. But
The footprint.
even just the footprint of Friday. And in that one moment, everything changes.
Suddenly, the world isn't his anymore.
Exactly. The other steals the world from me simply by existing in it. That sunset I was enjoying is my private spectacle. Now he's looking at it too. It's not mine anymore. His mere presence contests my right to possess everything.
It puts my spontaneity on trial. Before the other appears, I am innocent. I just take what I want. After the other appears, I am guilty.
Or at least I am accused. I have to justify myself. The question arises, do I have the right to eat this coconut when he is hungry? That question didn't exist a moment before.
This brings us to the actual structure of this ethical relationship, because our modern liberal minds are so accustomed to the idea of equality. A contract between equals. I respect you, you respect me, we shake hands. It's symmetrical.
The whole social contract tradition is built on that symmetry.
But Levinas seems to be suggesting that the ethical encounter is fundamentally, radically asymmetrical.
This is a crucial break from so many other thinkers, even ones he's often compared to, like Martin Buber. Buber's I-thou relationship is a beautiful idea, but it's reciprocal.
It's a meeting of equals.
Levinas says, no, the ethical relation is hierarchical. But, and this is the absolute twist, I am not at the top of the hierarchy.
The other is at the top.
The other is higher than me. The other is my master, my teacher. I am the student. I am in the position of service.
That is such a hard pill to swallow for the modern ego. We are obsessed with equality, with fairness, with my rights. Levinas is saying, no, your first experience is not of your rights, but of your duties. You serve.
He goes even further. It's not just that I'm responsible for the other. He says I am responsible for the other, without waiting for them to be responsible for me. Even if the other ignores me, or abuses me, or hates me, my responsibility remains absolute.
It's that quote from Dostoevsky he loves so much.
We are all guilty of all, and for all men before all, and I more than the others.
I more than the others. That's the part that really gets you. It leads to this terrifying concept of substitution, because now Levinas starts using language that sounds, frankly, traumatic. He calls the ethical subject a hostage.
It is traumatic language, and Levinas makes absolutely no apology for that. He believes that our induction into the good is a trauma. It's an impact that wounds us, that breaks our self-satisfied shell.
So hostage, what does he mean? A hostage is someone held against their will. They didn't choose to be there. They're paying for the deeds of others.
That's precisely it. I did not choose this responsibility. It was imposed on me before I had the freedom to make a choice. The other's need takes me hostage. It demands a response that I wasn't free to refuse.
But this sounds so dangerous. I mean, if you tell someone you are a hostage to the needs of your neighbor, isn't that just a recipe for abuse, for total passivity? It sounds like an invitation to be a doormat.
That is the most common and in many ways the most sensible critique. And if we read Levinas as giving us a psychological prescription for how to behave in an abusive relationship, then yes, it's terrible advice.
So that's not what he's doing.
It's not. He's doing phenomenology. He is describing the fundamental structure of subjectivity itself. He's asking, how do we even become an I in the first place? And his radical answer is that we don't start out as free, autonomous individuals who then decide to be good. We are elected or accused into responsibility before we are even fully an I.
So it's pre-conscious. It's older than my memory, older than my freedom.
He calls it diachronic. It's a responsibility from a time I cannot recall. Before I can even say I am already answering to a call from the other. It's the here I am, the me Voici from the Hebrew Bible.
The call to Abraham, to Moses.
And it's not a statement of location like I'm over here sitting in this chair. It's a statement of total availability. Behold me, I am at your disposal, I am exposed. It's a grammatical accusative. I am accused by the other's need before I can be a nominative of I.
He talks about this responsibility not as an intellectual decision, but as a physical sensation, a gnawing in the gut.
Yes, it's in the sensibility. It's the skin being exposed to the air, the vulnerability. It's not a choice I make with my rational brain, I should be charitable now. It's that visceral wince you feel when you see someone truly suffering.
And even if you walk away, even if you rationalize it and ignore them, that wince proves you were held hostage just for a moment.
That wince is the trace of the infinite. It's the proof that the thick walls of your totality, of your ego, have been breached. You can plaster over the hole, you can tell yourself stories, oh, they'll just spend the money on drugs, or it's not my problem. But the breach happened. You were accused.
Okay, so we're trapped in the self, in the ill-YA. The only escape is through this infinite, crushing, traumatic responsibility to the other. It sounds exhausting. It sounds like a death sentence for the self. Is there any kind of future in this picture? Or is it just eternal servitude in the present moment?
He does offer a future, but it's a future that is radically different from the one we usually imagine.
Which is usually my plans.
Right. My project, I'll write a book, I'll build a house, I'll get a promotion. That's just the ego projecting itself forward in time. It's still the same. Levinas finds a future that is truly other, truly surprising, in the concept of fecundity.
The child.
The child. It's a beautiful and very strange part of his philosophy. He looks at the relationship between a parent and a child. The child is of me, my biology, my name, my legacy. But the child is also a radical stranger.
An other that I helped create but can never, ever control.
Never. The child will have thoughts I can't predict, make choices I wouldn't make, and ultimately live in a time that I will never see. The child represents a future that escapes my grasp.
So the child offers a kind of victory over my own death, not because I get to live forever, but because my responsibility continues into a time that is absolutely not my own.
Precisely. It breaks the closure of my own lifespan, of my I. And this connects directly to his very unique view of eros, of love.
Which is not the romantic ideal.
Not at all. The romantics, and frankly, most of Hollywood and pop music, tell us that love is about fusion. Two souls becoming one. You complete me.
Levinas must have despised that idea.
He finds it horrifying. If two become one, we're just back to totality.
Yeah.
A larger same. For Levinas, the miracle of eros is that it fails to fuse. He describes it through the caress.
The caress.
Think about what a caress is. It's not a grasp. It doesn't possess. It touches the surface. But it's always searching for something it can never, ever hold. It cherishes the mystery, the otherness of the other. It loves the distance.
It's a relationship with what withdraws.
Yes, the caress says, I love you precisely because you are not me, and I can never fully absorb you into my world. It respects the alterity.
That brings a certain dignity back to the separation between people. We don't have to merge to be intimate.
Sure.
But I have to play skeptic again here.
Please. It's necessary.
Because this whole intense structure, this I am for the other, this I'm a hostage, this infinite demand, it makes a certain kind of poetic sense when it's just you and me in a room. But the world is not a desert island with just one Friday.
Here comes the crisis. The necessary crisis of politics.
There are billions of Fridays, and this is where the pure, beautiful concept of the face gets very, very messy. If I owe infinite responsibility to the person standing in front of me, let's say I give them my only coat because they're cold. What happens when a third person walks in? The third party.
Luthier.
And now there are two people who need a coat, and I only have one.
This is the moment where pure face-to-face ethics has to transform into something else.
It has to become justice. And for Levinas, this is a deeply tragic, though necessary moment. As long as it's just the two of us, I am your servant, period. But the entry, the third, forces me to do something I didn't have to do before.
It forces you to compare.
I have to compare. I have to look at you, and I have to look at him, and I have to ask, who needs it more? Who has a greater claim? Who is in the right? And the instant I start comparing, I'm no longer just responding to the infinite demand of the face. I'm weighing you. I'm judging you.
You become citizens. You become comparable units in a calculation. In order to treat you fairly in relation to the third, I have to betray the absolute uniqueness of your singular face. I have to apply rules. I have to create institutions.
So justice is, in its very essence, a betrayal of ethics.
It is a necessary betrayal. That's the crucial phrase. We cannot live in society without the state, because without the state, the third would be constantly wronged. If I gave everything to you, I would be committing an injustice against your neighbor. So I need laws, courts, systems.
But he warns us.
He warns us constantly. The state is always tempted to forget its origin. It forgets that it was born from the ethical demand of the face. It starts to believe that it is the ultimate point. It becomes a bureaucracy, a system for its own sake, or worse.
Totalitarianism, the system that completely erases the face.
Exactly. This is such a critical, nuanced point for anyone trying to derive a politics from Levinas. He's not an anarchist. He understands the necessity of the political. But he argues that the law must always be haunted by the ethical demand it betrayed.
The prophetic voice.
That's the role of the ethical subject within the state. We obey the laws, but we must always keep our eyes open for the specific human suffering that the general law misses. The tear on the cheek of the person whom justice has failed. We have to be the bad conscience of the state.
So justice is never finished. It's always a work in progress, always being called into question by a new face.
Always not yet.
You know, there's a huge tension I'm feeling right now. Here we are using language, using concepts, definitions, logic to describe a reality that is supposed to be beyond concepts and logic.
The central problem of his entire project.
Levinas wrote thousands of pages. He gave lectures. But isn't the very act of writing a book a form of pertalizing? He's taking this living, breathing, explosive ethical encounter and freezing it into black ink on a white page.
You've hit on the central struggle of his writing style. He was acutely aware of this paradox. He called it the struggle between the saying, le dire, and the said, le dit.
The said is the content, right? The transcript of our conversation, the words on the page.
The sky is blue. Levinas was born in Lithuania in 1906. This is the said. It's a statement. It's a piece of information. It's dead. It's a snapshot of a past event.
But the saying, that's the act itself.
The saying is the living act of speaking. It's the exposure of turning to you and offering my word. It's the risk. It's the ethical event happening right now.
It's like the difference between reading the sheet music and actually being at the live concert. Or even better, the difference between seeing the sentence "I love you" spray painted on a wall and hearing it from the trembling voice of someone risking everything to say it to you.
That's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
The saying is the proximity, the vulnerability. But to do philosophy, to communicate at all, Levinas has to use the said. He has to write sentences. So he develops this strategy of constantly trying to unsay deader what he's just said.
Unsaying? How do you unsay something in a book that's already been printed?
You use language that pushes against its own limits. You use hyperbole. You use shocking extreme language. When Levinas says we are hostages, or that ethics is a persecution by the good, or that we must expiate for the other.
He knows these terms are over the top.
Of course he does. He's not being literal. He's using them to shock the reader out of their comfortable conceptual understanding. He wants to create a rupture in your logic. He wants the text itself to gesture toward the center, saying that it can never fully contain. He wants the said to scream.
He's pointing at something that language by its very nature cannot hold, which I suppose leads us inevitably to the ultimate concept that defies language.
God.
But we have to tread so carefully here. Levinas is not doing theology in any traditional sense. He's not talking about a supreme being, a big man in the sky.
No. For him, that would be the ultimate idolatry. If I can form a concept of God, if I can say God is the omnipotent creator of the universe, I have totalized God. I've made God into an object in my ontology. I've put the infinite in a box inside my finite brain.
So he wants to preserve the absolute otherness, the holiness of God. Where then do we find God in the system, if not in the sky, not in the church, not in a mystical experience?
We find God in the ethical relation. But, and this is key, God is not the same as the other person. You are not God. But my infinite responsibility to you is the trace of God's passage.
The way of the infinite leads through the neighbor.
Precisely. To turn your eyes toward God is not to look up at the heavens. It is to look horizontally at the face of the stranger. God is the Philia, he calls it, who looks at me through your eyes.
It's a triangular relationship, but the third point of the triangle, God, is always invisible, always withdrawn.
Yes. I serve the infinite only through my service to the finite, concrete person in front of me. It's what he called a religion for adults. No magic tricks, no consoling ecstasies, just the hard, grinding, endless work of infinite duty to one another.
The hard, grinding work. That brings us right back to the listener, and honestly, right back to me. I'm listening to all of this, and one part of my brain is completely inspired, but another part is just overwhelmed. Is this a livable ethics? Can anyone actually live as a hostage in their daily life? I have boundaries. I have to take care of my own needs. Levinas sounds like he's demanding I burn myself out completely for the sake of the world.
It's the most important question you can ask.
Mm.
And if we read him as a kind of self-help guru giving us a new checklist for life, be a hostage, feel persecuted, expiate for others, then yes, it is an impossible and frankly pathological recipe for burnout.
But that's not the genre.
That is not the genre. He is not prescribing a daily schedule. He is describing a utopian standard, a horizon that we can never reach, but that gives us our direction.
So it's a standard that judges our reality, rather than a rule that we can ever fully satisfy.
Exactly. It's there to reveal that our conscience is never truly clean, and that for Levinas is the aha moment. We tend to think we are good because we follow the rules. I didn't break the law today, I paid my taxes, I'm a good citizen. Levinas completely redefines goodness. You are good not because you are satisfied, but because you are anxious. You are good because you lie awake at night worrying you haven't done enough.
So the discomfort is the sign of the ethical. The imperial ego sleeps soundly at night. The ethical subject has insomnia.
That's it perfectly. Our very subjectivity, our humanity, is constituted by this fundamental inability to ever be truly indifferent.
I want to close with a story he tells, something that grounds all of this high-flying philosophy back in the mud and horror of reality. The story of Bobby.
The last Kantian in Nazi Germany.
Yes. Levinas tells this story about his time in the POW camp. The prisoners were stripped of everything, their names, their professions, their dignity. They were treated like animals, like livestock. The Nazi guards looked right through them. The local German civilians averted their eyes. They had been ontologized, totalized into nothingness.
But there was this stray dog, Bobby. He would wander into the camp, and when the prisoners would return from a brutal shift of forced labor, freezing, starving, dehumanized, Bobby would run up to them.
He would jump around and bark and wag his tail.
He was happy to see them. For Bobby, they weren't prisoner #734. They weren't Jews. They weren't Untermenschen. They were just men. This dog, in its supposed animal stupidity, was the only being in that entire universe who still recognized the human face.
He just responded.
He just responded. And Levinas, with that profound, sad irony, called him the last Kantian in Nazi Germany, because the dog upheld the dignity of man when all the humans had forgotten it.
It's such a haunting image. The entire elaborate structure of Western reason, the philosophy, the science, the politics, had conspired to erase the humanity of these men. And it took a stray dog, who knew nothing of ontology or ethics, to restore it just for a moment by wagging his tail.
It forces you to ask the ultimate question. What makes us human? Is it our big brains, our ability to build systems and draw maps? Or is it that simple pre-rational capacity to respond to the vulnerability of another?
And I think that leaves us with the final provocative thought to take away from this. Levinas suggests that your I, your authentic self, is only truly constituted when you are in that moment of response to the other. So, when you turn away, when you scroll past the tragedy on your screen, when you categorize your neighbor to make them less threatening, who are you in that moment?
Are you even real when you are alone with your own thoughts? Or is the self just an echo, waiting for a voice to respond to?
I don't think I have an answer for that. But I suspect I'm going to be thinking about it all night.
Probably while struggling with a bit of insomnia.
Yeah. Exactly. Thank you for this. This was a real deep dive.
Thank you.